So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, thou shalt hear the word of my mouth, and warn them from me.
Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Middle Tennessee and examining current events from a biblical perspective, this is Bible News Radio with your hosts, Randall and Stacy Harp.
Hello, people. Okay, Randall didn't point to me, just so you know. Okay. Anyway, hey everybody. I want to thank you for coming into tonight's show. You know why? Because tonight we're going to talk about the F word. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about faith, people. Just so you know. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I want to welcome you all there on Periscope. Hello, people. And if you're on Facebook, I want to welcome you on Facebook. Hello, people. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, because then you'll know when we're on, okay? All right. I know, it was clever, right, Melanie? Uh-huh. Hello, Okie girl. And Melanie's there. And Virginia's there. Liz is there. And I'm pretty sure any minute now, a whole bunch of other fun people will be coming in. So thank you guys for sharing this out. You know, there's Jeff. Hey, Jeff. Nice to see you. Share this out. You know why? Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I get discouraged. Yeah, I know. Hard to believe, right? Actually, you already know it because you listen to the show. And when I'm in a mood, you guys already know it. But you know what? Tonight we're going to be talking about this book. Isn't this an awesome cover? Look at that. Marathon Faith is the name of it. And you know what? If you go to marathonfaith.org, yep, marathonfaith.org. If you go there, you can get the 4th chapter of this book absolutely free. Download it and read it. It will change your life, people. And that's what we're all about, is changing your life here at Bible News Radio. All right. Also, if you guys have any questions during the show, feel free to go ahead and start putting them in. And with any luck, I'll see it. It might not be luck. It might, be skill, actually. We'll see. Just so you know. All right. Hey, Kim. Nice to see you, girl. Nice to see you in there, Kim. I'm glad you're there. Actually, I want to talk to you later. Me and you got to talk because I want to talk to you about WordPress. Just so you know. All right. Give me a minute. Over here, I want to go ahead and check Facebook just in case anybody's in there. You never know. Somebody might have showed up in Facebook tonight. If you are in Facebook and you're watching the archive, don't forget to subscribe to our page and to like it. And never, ever, 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 ever hit the sad face or the angry face or anything negative, because then Facebook hates you and it won't show you me. Just so you know. And it's important that we only edify here and give hearts and thumbs ups, no sad faces or angry faces. Somebody last night gave an angry face, and his wife was on the show. I actually messaged her and I said, "Hey, Kathy, can you tell Al to undo the angry face?" Hey, John, nice to see you, psychologist John. There's in Canada. How you doing, buddy? You doing good? All right, good. I'm glad. All right, and if you're on YouTube, share this out, okay? All right. Okay, so in case you don't know, I get connected to some of the coolest people in the whole world, and they also get connected to me. What does that tell you, huh? Yep, it goes both ways, people. All right, so here's the thing. Oh, good. I'm glad you're good. So tonight, my guest is Pastor John Van Pay. Uh-huh. Yep, he's the guy that has 2 last names, masquerading as one. He's the founding and lead pastor of Gateway Fellowship Church. I have to hold this out here, sorry. At mygateway.tv. In San Antonio, Texas, which is where Denise is from, one of our pillars of the community. All right? And in case you didn't know this is the fastest growing church in America, in 2016. We'll have to find out what happened last year to knock him out of that spot. But anyway, according to Outreach Magazine, which is a magazine that talks about outreach, I'm assuming by the name. Outreach Magazine. Anyway, he is a leader in the Christian Multiplication Network. That's not about math, I'm going to assume. Okay, hey, Jason and Josh will amaze you. Nice. Thank you guys for coming in. And also, this is the other thing, okay? John has finished, this is what's going to blow you away. He's finished 70. We're talking like 70 endurance events, including the Ironman triathlon. Okay, now this is worthy of bowing to him because that's insane. I mean, if I can, never mind, I am going to compare myself. That I just want to touch him just because of that. But he's married to Stephanie. They have 3 children. And anyway, go to marathonfaith.org because we're going to talk about faith tonight. People, the F word that you can say with integrity. All right, so John, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here with you. And I think I heard you say earlier you want to touch me, and I'm glad we're doing this online. So you can't do that.
Well, I mean, seriously.
But, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, Randall keeps yelling at me over there with his hand. All right, just so you know, if I happen to look down, it's because I'm trying to look at John, but okay, I have to remember the camera is where you are at. Okay, anyway, no, actually, seriously, I would totally shake your hand. So how many, okay, so you've been in 70, events, like crazy stuff. Okay, so let's start in the beginning. I want to go back to your childhood. Did you run when you were little?
No, I didn't. I played baseball growing up, and but I think like all of us, you kind of get to maybe mid-20s and you just let yourself go. And my health started to go, and I was way overweight and high cholesterol. And I injured my knee playing dodgeball, dislocated my knee, and I went to go see a physical therapist. She got me riding on a stationary bike, and then I was like, man, this is insane. I can't ride indoors. So I got a bike, and I felt like a kid again. I rode a bike when I was little, and it just felt like, I was outside. And so I started riding more and more and started losing a little bit of weight, and then signed up for a road race, and then got into triathlon. And just, I think it's, that kind of addictive personality. I just got fixated on it, and just I'm not fast, but I liked the endurance. I liked the long distance, and that's what got me into it.
Yeah, see, I think that's very cool. I actually do, really. I've been athletic my whole life, as you can tell from my physique.
Have you ever done like a 5K or any kind of a race?
No, but I actually used to ride my bike 10 miles a day. I did that, and I played a lot of tennis. But the most recent endurance event I actually did, and I know some of you are going to laugh at this. Don't even laugh, because if you laugh, then I'm coming after you people. Okay, I actually recently took up pickleball. Do you even know what that is? Please say yes. You've heard of pickleball, right?
I've never heard of pickleball in my life.
Okay, I'm not surprised.
No, I don't.
It's the fastest growing sport in America, but whatever. Okay, so here's what pickleball is. It's like tennis on a short form court, right? Okay, so if you take a basketball court and you break it in half, then the length of the court is that long. Okay, so it's like half of a basketball court.
But the width.
The width.
Okay.
And you play it with a paddle and a wiffle ball. In fact, every Thursday night, I attempt to go play because I can only play certain times, and Thursday night's one of them. But anyway, I was in a pickleball tournament last year, and I played let's put it this way. By the end of the day, I got 20,000 steps in, and I was about ready to die, just so you know. I mean, I was the next day. By the way, I got a gold. I did win. I beat a girl and her partner, and we did doubles, but I played 2 tournaments that day. And so it was massive. It was but the next day, I'm telling you, my upper thighs, I thought I was going to die. Because, you know, when you exercise a lot and your upper thighs start to hurt, that's what it was for me. I'm not, like, in the best shape. I mean, comparatively to you, you're in Superman shape. Me, not so much.
You're in pickleball shape.
I'm in great shape for my age, though. All my numbers are good.
Good.
I just have a little extra fat on me, but that's okay. I'm working on it. But that was a long day, and I was so dead afterwards. So. And I used to play a lot of tennis. So pickleball is really kind of like geared toward people who are getting older, although a lot of younger people play it too. So, but a lot of retired people play it.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. You should take it up. You might like it, especially if you can hit a ball.
We'll try it out. It's
fun. It really is fun. And with your endurance level, you could kick everybody's butt. I mean, that would be the best part right there. So when you did, I'm just trying to find out his background. Okay, so you ran the Ironman. Okay, so tell everybody what that is in case somebody doesn't know, because somebody might not know.
Right. So triathlon there's 4 different lengths. There's the sprint, which is a lot of new people start that. Then they have Olympic distance. So if you watch like Summer Olympics, they'll have a triathlon, and that's generally a mile or 3/4 of a mile swim, 25K bike, and then a 10K run. And then the third is the half Ironman, which increases in distance. And then you finally get to the Ironman, which is a pretty grueling triathlon. So it's swimming, biking, and then running. You swim 2.4 miles, you bike over 100 miles, and then you finish it up with a marathon. And, you know, I don't know if you remember back in the early 80s, they broadcasted it. It was in Hawaii, and there was a lady there who finished, and just kind of, it was grueling to even watch her cross the finish line. You can YouTube it, and it's worth a watch. But I saw that as a kid, and I remembered it, and just something that got a hold of me back then, that one day I'd love to do an Ironman triathlon. So I did they do them all over the world. I did the Lake Placid back in 2007.
Wow, that's so cool. You know what? I might have seen it. This guy, Josh, said swimming scares me. I think of sharks. I actually used to be a lifeguard, though, so I could do the bike thing, and I could probably do the swimming with no problem. It's the running that gets me. I've never been a good runner because I'm well endowed by my Creator. And let's just say that running has never been that easy for me. But I totally admire that. That is so cool. Okay, and you're married, so has your wife done it too, or is it like?
Yeah, she did her first triathlon. I signed her up for one. It was a sprint distance, and she was all excited about it. It was near Galveston, and so we drove down. She trained. It was her first one, and when she trained in our neighborhood pool. So the swimming was only like maybe 600 yards, and so I coached her, and then we get to the spot where, you know, she realizes where she's going to swim, and it's literally in the ocean. It's in the bay of Galveston, salt water, dark, and, you know, man-eating sharks below the surface. So she turned around and said, "I'm not doing it." She was like, "I am not going to do this." And somehow I talked her into it. We prayed, and she finished her fastest swim time ever. She was like one of the first ones out. She was gassed after that, but she got out, and she kind of gave me the look like, "I can't believe you got me into this." But she's done them as well.
Yeah, that's cool. In fact, I think, don't you start your book talking about something like that?
Right. That's in the story. You, one of your listeners mentioned sharks, and yeah, definitely that's in the intro.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the other thing. I wanted to read part of this in the intro. Listen to this, you guys. This is very cool. Okay, John writes, "I pray this book will help you discover the essentials from the endurance runners of the Bible." Did you realize the Bible mentions 3,237 different people? That's it. Of the approximately 1,300 spiritual leaders from Scripture, on average, only 1 in 3 finished well. That is an amazing stat. When I read that, I was surprised that somebody counted how many names were in the Bible. because I mean, the Bible is a pretty big book, and that's quite a few people, and heck, if I was in the Bible, I'd be like, yeah, I made it in the Bible. Of course, I would want to be in there for a good thing, not something stupid like some people in there.
Right. Yeah.
But then you talk about Hebrews 11 and 12, and then you wrote this. This is another reason I wanted to have you on. You wrote this. You said, and this is going to be like a fitch slap to some of you people, and I know I wasn't given permission to give that away tonight, but whatever. Just get over it. Okay. Anyone can toe the line, but not everyone will endure to the end. A follower of Jesus is not called to sit on the sofa and binge watch another television series. Did you get any haters yet who read that? And they're like, what? You're against me watching Netflix for 5 hours every night or whatever? Okay.
Right. My daughter rolled her eyes, and then she had kind of read an advanced copy. And last summer, I actually did a sabbatical after 10 years at our church, and I watched my first Netflix show. A friend of mine said, "You got to watch this show called Longmire," and so I got hooked. And so I think I watched like 3 shows in a row one day, and she brought that particular quote to my attention. So I was like, touche, very nice. But yeah, it's crazy how all the people in the Bible, that the ones mentioned in Hebrews 11 are one who finished well. Not all of them. Some of them started really well. Like you have King Saul. You have Solomon. I mean, these were great men and how they started as kings and had a legacy, and but they didn't finish well, and so they're not mentioned in Hebrews 11. Hebrews 12, it says since we're surrounded by this great cloud of witnesses, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, dropping the weight and the sin. And then it says to fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. But when you look at this, like, hallmark passage, it's one of my favorite passages in the Bible, and you hear the great cloud of witnesses. As a kid growing up, I always thought that I imagine when I read this scripture, that like I was running this race, and these witnesses were kind of cheering me on and inspiring me. And in this study, I realized that they were not there for me as much as it was what I was seeing in them. And when you back up to the previous chapter, by faith is mentioned over and over, and there's 20 heroes of the faith. There's 20 of them mentioned, and they were ordinary folks just like you and me, and they had their fair share of mistakes, but they overcame, and they kept going, and they had some grit, and they finished well. And so it's just really inspired me several years ago, and I can't get enough of it.
Amen. And you know what? I have to tell you that, honestly, okay, I'm just going to be honest. Not that I lie, because I'm sure I probably do. We all lie a little, right? Not on purpose, but anyway. The very first time I read this chapter 1, I totally wept. I broke down and started to cry. In fact, it was last week, before the interview was canceled, I did a Facebook audio, and I read part of the first chapter. And you know why? Mm-hmm. And I started to cry, and everybody can totally tell you, she cried, she's a big baby. But this is why, because when I was reading here on your on page 1, you mentioned that you had a small portrait of a missionary in China. Now, I don't know if you did your research on me very well, because if you did, then you would know I wrote the Voice of the Martyrs persecution blog for 8 years. So I have a very, very good grasp on Christian persecution, and often I think about the persecuted church, and I've read a lot of Brother Andrew and a whole bunch of other
right,
Wormbrand, all that for 8 years, wrote about Christian persecution every single day. So it really touched my heart that you actually wrote a lot, that you started out with that, because I thought, well, wow, here's a pastor in America that gives a rip about the persecuted church. That's unusual. It is, I should tell you. It's very unusual. But then then this is the part I read and I started crying. I was like, ugh. When you were talking about here, then when you talked about the Lord and what he went through, and all that, I was like, okay, I'm undone. This guy's rocks. No wonder his church is growing, because he loves God. So I just have to tell you, I'm not going to ruin it for anybody, But you guys really should get the book. And trust me, you know I interview a gazillion people. And if I keep telling you over and over and over again to get a book, it's because I actually read it and I want you to get it. Just so you know. So you can go over to marathonfaith.org. I'm not being paid to promote this at all. Just so you know, because you already know that. I don't get paid to do anything I'm doing here. And get the book. Okay? All right. So that's my free promo for you. Sorry. I know.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really touching.
So tell me though, because you did write about this Chinese pastor and you put him on your bike. Tell me about that, because honestly, I'm going to tell you something. In the 8 years I wrote the VOM blog, 8 years I wrote about Christian persecution 5 days a week, and I saw how little the interaction was. In fact, it would irritate the crap out of me because it was so low. In fact, I even spoke at my own church. I brought 100 of their newsletters, because it's not a magazine. Don't ever call it a magazine, people. Yeah. It's a newsletter. Anyway, and I tried to give them away at my own church at that time, and like 2 people would take it. And I'm like, really? Trying to get people to sign up for Prisoner Alert, to write a letter to a prisoner, to sign a stinking petition is like pulling teeth. So, you know, and I don't know. Anyways, I could vent about that. But anyway, how did you come to appreciate the persecuted church? Because a lot of American Christians don't. And anyway, so.
Right. I appreciate your burden and your passion for the persecuted church as well. You mentioned Brother Andrew earlier, and during my formative years, I read God Smuggler.
I love that book.
It was one that just inspired me. I gave it to my daughter for Christmas, that book. She feels called to be a missionary. It's going this summer to Turkey. And, I had that missionary from China. His name is Steve Lilly. I think it's probably okay to share here in that book. But I went about 2005 to Thailand. And while I was there, we were ministering to missionary families who were in China, who were not allowed or didn't have the freedom that we have to worship. And so they would once a year come and have services for their kids and students. It was kind of like a week-long retreat. And I listened to the stories of their children and how we, even through emailing back and forth, couldn't even spell God. You had to refer him to as daddy. And just it was a very personal connection to people who are really underground ministering and spreading the gospel. And the reality is today there's over 6,000 unreached people groups, and many of them on this through the Middle East, but Indonesia and Africa, and they're in Arab countries where there's a lot of persecution. But we in America, we're spoiled. We've got so many churches and opportunities to hear the gospel preached, but until we have the burden of the Lord, he came to seek and save those who are lost. And there's many people who have not yet heard, and we are his method. We must go. And so I have that burden. And once you get to the final chapter in this book, it really becomes very clear what my burden and the burden of the Lord is on why we must endure and finish, and what it means that the word finish is so much more finishing strong or crossing that finishing line. A lot of times people think it means just appearing before God and hearing him say, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." But I think there's more to it. He's given each of us a purpose, and the calling to go and make disciples applies to every single one of us. And not only share our faith with our neighbor, but to pray, to sin, be available to even go to the hard places to where the gospel desperately needs to be preached, to just support those underground missionaries in that persecuted church.
Yeah. Well, see, that's awesome. I totally love you. I just have to tell you. I can understand why everybody loves you at your church, just so you know. Yeah. So let's get into your book, okay? Because, we're into your book, but the very fact that you talked about that at the beginning really did touch me. And when you think about Christ, and let me just say this too, because you talk about the different views of Jesus that we have, the distorted view as one of those, just as an example. The way that you wrote about how he finished his race, I had never even thought of it in those terms, right? Because when you get to our age, let's face it, people start dying. Okay. I mean, like parents, grandparents, everybody, you know, my best friend died like 5 or 6 years ago of a brain tumor. So, you know, you really do begin to look at your life and go, huh, you know, this is interesting. The different quote race that we have. I have friends right now that have cancer. You know, I'm dealing with a dad who's 89, who's got Parkinson's and dementia, you know, and I'm looking at his race, you know, and it's like, okay, what is he going through? So, but Christ, it's so Americanized in our mind that, okay, he came, he was born of a virgin, blah, blah. We don't even think of it, you know, and then he did his thing, and then he died on the cross, blah, blah. Then he rose from the dead, whatever. You know, I mean, it's so, people don't even, it's like the impact, they have no clue what it really was about. So talk a little bit about the distortions that we actually have, because, you know, I know we do, most of us.
Right. I think a lot of times we get the wrong view or distorted view or no view of Jesus. And it really, that Hebrews 12, it says to look unto Jesus, to fix your eyes unto Jesus, who endured the cross for the joy set before him. And he knew his why. His why was the joy. How could that bring happiness to endure the cross? But because of your salvation, all of our listeners right now who are joining in, I hope they would just be reminded that Jesus endured the cross. He finished his race because he wanted them to be saved. He wants us to be saved, and he wanted to glorify his Father. And we've got to remember that in our race, you know, there's going to be difficulty. Surrendering our lives to Jesus, it's not the end of the race. That's just the starting line. And when we can understand that, when we all face, whether it's hurt, burnout, failure, fear, whatever those things are, a lot of times we get so fixated on those things and they become bigger and bigger. And then we get taken out of our race, or we stop fulfilling the purpose that God has designed each of us to fulfill. And so we got to look to Jesus, to fix our eyes on Jesus. You mentioned we're kind of getting older. I know I'm in my mid 40s now, and my eyesight's not as good as it used to be, and everything's blurry. I went to a Spurs game recently, and I couldn't even read the opposing teams, the name of the team on the front of the jersey or the names on the back. And a buddy of mine gave me his glasses, and I could see everything perfectly. It was like everything was in HD. I didn't want to give the glasses back, and that condition is called presbyopia. Presby, where we get older or elder, and then opti is eyes. So it's the aging of the eyes where you can't focus on things as much. And I think in a spiritual sense, we've got a presbyopia that as we grow older, as we face problems, challenges, storms in life, we callous our heart and callous our eyes. They become hardened, and we need to all right, I need to fix my eyes back on Jesus. I need to return to that first love and see him for who he really is and how he saved me and wants to have a relationship with me. And he'll give me all the grace and the strength and the wisdom and the favor, everything I need to keep going, to overcome every obstacle that he allows me to face, and every trial that you may endure or go through. He wants to turn that trial into a testimony, to turn that mess into a message. And that's the redemptive nature of Jesus that we can never forget.
Amen. That's very awesome. Very true too, people. All right, so we're at the bottom of the hour, which means this. We're going to talk about some stuff. And then I'm going to but before we take our quote break, because this is live streaming, so it's not like I really have a commercial, just so you know. But this one I'm going to do, John. I'm going to read off a couple of names. Let's see here. In the faith chapter. And then those of you who are in Facebook or Periscope, you write the name that you want us to talk about after I'm done sharing about the offerings that we have here for you. All right, so now you can pick one too, John. You pick your favorite. Like, who's your favorite? Who do you want to talk about the most?
I like what I love about the author of Hebrews is that he was inspired by the Holy Spirit, and to out of all the hundreds and thousands of people in the Old Testament, you didn't just pick. I mean, some of the patriarchs are there, right? We've got Abraham, Jacob, Joseph, David, Moses. Those guys are there. But then he picks some people that are obscure that you wouldn't even, you're like, where did that come from? Like Rahab. I love her story. You know, she's not a lot of the women are mentioned. And, but why was she mentioned over like other women in the Old Testament, like Queen Esther, Deborah, who was a judge, Ruth, who there's a whole book named after her. Rahab had a shady past. She was a prostitute. She wasn't a Jew. But when she hosted the spies that Joshua sent into the land of Jericho, where Israel was going in to reclaim some land that God had promised and was going to bless it, and she at great risk, she welcomed these spies in. And if she would have been caught, not only her, but her whole family would have been put to death.
Yeah.
And so she went all in on, and by faith, she brought them in and she hid them and she helped them. And she helped them out. And man, as a result, her life was not only saved, but she became part of that country and married into this Jewish culture, and to this day is still honored. But I love her faith, her willingness to just go all in, to risk it all. And I think a lot of times that even in our walk with the Lord, we play it safe. We just kind of go to church on maybe 1 hour a week. And God's like, I want so much more. I have so much more planned. If you would just by faith, trust me and be willing to go all in. I've got this plan, this purpose for you. And there's a lot more adventure and there's a lot more to this life than just showing up and attending. And I'm just inspired by Rahab's story. That's definitely one. What about you?
Well, I love her story too. People always focus on the fact that she, quote, lied, unquote.
Right.
But interestingly, that whole story reminds me of the underground church. I mean, if you think about it, right? Like today in modern in the modern church, and definitely Christians that are persecuted, like in China, for example, they won't allow you. The underground church won't allow you in the church until you've spent time in jail and proven your faith that way.
Right.
And it's kind of like, and I think of Harriet Tubman and, the Underground Railroad and some of the stuff that she did. And I kind of look at Rahab in the same thing because she hid the spies, right?
Right.
She was doing a great thing, but all people focus on is the fact that she was a harlot. Like, there's more to the story. In fact, I actually just got a press release from another person. I forgot who it was from. But actually, they just got done writing a book. It's very scholarly about, quote, the women vixens of the Bible and how they always get bagged on. And they're actually kind of revealing the history and some of the cultural things and even other sources that talk about these individuals that most people don't know about. So I look at it, and actually you made a good point. I never thought about how come Deborah and Ruth or Esther aren't in the Hall of Faith. I never even thought about that, but you would think Esther would have been because of what she did, but she's got the whole book. I mean, so
right. And there's another name, Jephthah.
Yes.
I don't know if you've got to his chapter yet, but do you remember anything about him in the Bible?
I have to be honest and say no. I know his name, and I think Beth Moore likes to say his name a lot. There's one of these women teachers that likes to say his name just to say it. I think for me, I couldn't even say it. But
well, don't feel bad. I'm like a pastor, and I didn't. If someone asked me that question 2 years ago, I wouldn't have known his story.
Yeah.
But he's there listed in Hebrews 11. Out of all the people, he's there, and his story is another underdog who, he was a child born out of wedlock, and as a result of being kind of like a bastard child, he would not have been allowed to worship. So he went away. But God called him, and he was willing to fight and answered a call, and God used him in a very big way. But there was just a lot of grit in his life, and that's what I love about his story, and inspired by just this willingness to just keep going, no matter how hard it was, no matter the odds stacked against you. He just kept going, and I want to see more of that. And not only my generation, the generation of my children and the next generation, because there was a generation before us that understood what it meant to work hard and you don't quit. And nowadays everybody gets a trophy and, you get everything in a quick click, and, you can purchase fast. Everybody wants something fast. And there's something about the grit and the faith, this long obedience, just keeps going. And I love Jephthah's story is another one.
Yeah, that's so cool. Okay, so I'm going to take our break, but just so you know, the Hall of Faith, if you go to Hebrews 11, that's kind of considered the faith chapter of the Bible. I don't know if you're being serious when you're asking this question, but I just want to let you know. It's a serious question, and that's just go to Hebrews chapter 11, and that's what's considered the Hall of Faith, where all these people that John and me are talking about are actually listed. So let's give it a minute, though. If you're new to Bible News Radio, let me tell you, I am Stacy Lynn Harp, your sweet and lovable host. It's in writing, people. See that? Sweet and lovable. People ask, how did you get that moniker? I was like, one day I woke up. No, I'm just kidding. Somebody said it. I liked it. And that therein is a life lesson, people. If somebody says something nice about you, own it. And then brand it on your social media. And then everybody will be brainwashed into thinking it's true. Yeah. Anyway, we air every day here on Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube all at the same time. And we're thinking about going to Twitch as well. And anyway, long story short, at 7 p.m. Central Time, we're a Christian worldview show, basically. We have great people like John on the show. And we talk about the news of the day. We interview lots of fun people. And we just recently instituted a brand new segment on our show called Who in the World, where we get to interview famous people on TV. Like last night, I talked to Lauren Ash on the TV show Superstore, which some of you may or may not know of, about the show. You know why? Because we're called to go into the world and fish for people. And guess what? There's going to be somebody who watched Superstore who might not have ever heard of Bible News Radio and thought, what the heck is she talking about Superstore for with the star of Superstore? Well, just so you know, it's so I can share the gospel with you. That's the goal. I have to admit, I'm guilty as charged. Anyway, we're also sponsored by Ariel Ministries, which is the ministry of Dr. Arnold Fruchtenbaum. And if you go over to our Twitter account, twitter.com/Bible News Radio, we actually have a PDF there that you can download. And this month, it's actually free. This month, it happens to be called The Modern State of Israel and Bible Prophecy. I think it's 16 pages long. All you got to do is just download it. It's yours for the clicking. It's yours if you click, people. And also we have a special discount code for Ariel Ministries. And if you go to ariel.org and use the coupon code Bible News, you'll save 20% on anything in the store there. And we're telling people about Dr. Arnold Fruchtenbaum's book, Israelology, The Missing Link in Systematic Theology. And incidentally, they are actually located in Texas, where my guest is. I think they used to be in San Antonio. I don't know if they're still there, but Dr. Fruchtenbaum, it took him 13 years to write this book, and basically it's an exhaustive survey of every aspect on the topic of Israel in the Bible. Super cool. So if you want to save some money, go buy the book and use Bible News as the coupon code, you will. Also, another thing that we do, I happen to be a clinically trained marriage and family therapist. I started a group it's actually a club. It's called the Unstuck Club. I don't know about you, but lots of people are stuck. Just so you know. And my goal is to help people get unstuck. So if you go to bit.ly/Unstuck Club, it has to be all caps. Go there and you can sign up. There's 15 free lessons in there, about 6 hours of free content from me, your sweet and lovable host, telling you how to get unstuck. Just go there and sign up. Just because. You want to move forward, don't you? Of course you do. Anyway, there's that, and then what's the other thing I was going to tell you? I know there's always something I'm forgetting.
I'm talking about pillars?
Oh, yes, the pillars of the community. How can I forget? Okay, also, here's the thing. This is a listener-sponsored show, as well as our one sponsor that we have. So here's the thing. If you want to support me and Randall, a.k.a. Bareface, it's not his real name, then donate $25 a month to us. Then I'll give you the name Pillar because you'll be a pillar of the community and not a pillar of salt like Lot's wife was. There's so many bad jokes I could throw there. Anyway, pillars of the community are people that actually believe in what we do enough, and they want to support what we do, and they put some money behind it. I'll put you into a private Facebook group where you'll get more behind-the-scenes stuff, including, but not limited to, me talking to famous people that you can sit in and listen to. And, you know, like I'm going to have Roma Downey coming up on the show on March 5th. So if you want to be a pillar of the community, guess what? You can sit in on that call with me and Roma Downey from Touched by an Angel from many years ago. Anyway, that's for free. And if you just want to donate one time, we're okay with that too. Just go to BibleNewsRadio.com/give. Remember, it's more blessed to give than to receive. All right, so tonight our guest is Pastor John Van Pay, in case you didn't know that. And his brand new book is called Marathon Faith, people. You can go to marathonfaith.org. You can download the chapter 4 in there, which I think is about Noah, right? Yeah. It's about Noah. That's a guy that had lots of faith. Just saying, people. Noah had faith. Like nobody else. Have you ever done that one? Noah? No, you didn't, right? Mm-hmm. That's really bad. Sorry. My bad. Anyway, you can get the book at marathonfaith.org. Actually, you know the ones that I want to talk about is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The three amigos. You know why?
Yes.
Because they were Daniel's best friends. They were in the same Babylonian culture Daniel was. They were Jewish, and they had God's favor. They were throwing in stuff like fire, and, you know, and they survived. And it's like they get this, oh, by the way, we were just here, and their Hebrew names were ripped from them, and they got these pagan names that we remember them by. And my husband always mentions their Hebrew names and drives me up a wall because I can't.
Mishael and Azariah.
There you go. See, because I can't remember them.
That would be the rough Anglo equivalents.
But they're mentioned in the Hall of Faith. So talk a little bit about them, because I think I personally want to meet them myself.
Right. I mean, not only did they endure a trial, but when, you know, the king looks into that fiery furnace because they wouldn't compromise their beliefs, he says there's a fourth person there that looks like the Son of Man. Now, some theologians would say that was Jesus, even in the Old Testament. He's always been. And so there was 4 individuals, and they didn't get burned. They survived. But there's a part in Hebrews 11 that says that they don't mention these guys by name, but it says they quenched the fire. And so maybe it's the Holy Spirit, maybe it's just me, but I'm inspired by their story as well, because they were a squad, they were a crew, they were friends, and they were united. And you can't go too far in your race without good friends to be able to encourage you when you're down. You got to have that community. I think all of us are the sum of the 3 or 4 or 5 people that we're around. You know, even Jesus belonged to a small group. He's the model for us. And I'm grateful that in the chapter I mentioned my buds, Matt, Brian, Rusty, Daryl. I've known them for, 30 years now, and we talk almost every day, and they're a squad that they'll make fun of me. They'll keep me humble, but they'll celebrate. We'll pray for each other. And, everybody needs a squad. Everybody needs a Shadrach in their life. How about you? Do you have a good group of friends that you can really trust, that will take care of you when you're down, and that you can take care of them as well?
I actually do. Quite a few, actually.
Yeah.
I actually do. Pickleball actually is a serious community of faith. Hey, I live in Tennessee, so not everybody, but there are various stripes and zebra colors at pickleball. And then I'm also involved very heavily with a number of groups through what I do here. And I have a couple of very special people, and they're very special in many ways, that have that right to speak into my life. And I go, okay, all right, you can correct me, go for it. I squinch, and I also use Marco Polo a lot. Have you heard of Marco Polo?
I have.
The mobile app?
My wife and her squad is known as the Brownies. She's the only kind of the white girl in the group. All the others are Hispanics, but
Mm-hmm.
my wife is very dark complected. So, we're in San Antonio, but I don't know if they do it too much now, but for a while they were always doing it and driving me crazy because, they're leaving those video messages with each other. And I never got on, but do you do Marco Polo with your
I do.
with your crew?
Yeah, because I moved from California to Tennessee 5 years ago, and so some of my very close friends are still in California. I'm trying to get them out here.
Yeah.
But it's the next best thing, I mean, it's way different. Like when we were kids, everything was the phone and a cord. Now you can go, hey, how you doing? Check out my bed, or look at my dog. Isn't he cute? Or whatever. So and it's so weird because the intimacy of video, even if it's on a phone, especially if you already know the person in person, it's not some weird thing like like you just got to know them online. But if you actually really know the people, like my best friend is a psychologist. Her and I talk a lot. And we actually said that we were going to write a book about our Marco Polos because it's the conversations that we've had have been life-changing. I mean, truly. So there's that. And of course, I got my husband. He's the most important to me.
There you go. Absolutely.
He's a good man. All right. So we actually have a lot of your crew here. Your people have came on to our Facebook page. Let's say hi to some people. Melissa is a brownie. Nice to see you. Hey, there's a brownie.
Yeah.
Rusty is there.
She's one of them.
And let's see, Rusty and Nathan, Get Grit, and Nathan, let's see, Chris, Kelly, and Jill. Let's see here, Jennifer, Jasmine, and Catherine, your wife, I'm going to assume, right? Yeah, that's your wife.
Oh, she's my mom. That's my mom.
Oh, that's your mom? Okay. Sorry, Mom. My bad. Yeah. Melissa's your wife. No. Who's your wife? No, sorry, wife. Never mind.
Stephanie's my wife.
Stephanie's your wife. Yeah, don't hate me for that. See, this is live streaming. I was telling John right before the show, one of the benefits is you can spit on yourself in front of everybody and and go, that was awkward. Matt Buff and Kim is there. And I know some of you guys here in Periscope, I think are probably there too. Periscope seems to be having some problems tonight. But so before the show, I know that I asked John if I can ask him an A-list guest question. I mean, after all, you're a pastor, and I'm sure that there's something you probably share your life like I do. I'm here every day sharing an hour of my life with the world, and I have to tell you that there are some things that, and you were just called handsome, by the way. I think your wife just called you handsome in front of everybody. It's a good thing. So there are some things that maybe people don't know about you. Now, I pegged you for a firstborn. That was obvious. Which is not a bad thing. By the way, Kevin Lehman wrote a book called The Firstborn Advantage. That's a great book. You might want to check it out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But, so I have a friend. His name is Raymond Presson. He's a psychologist here in Tennessee. He also plays pickleball with me. And one day on Facebook, where we all live, because we're in our middle ages, he actually posed this question. I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a great question for a guest. So he was talking about how people enjoy their eggs. Do you like eggs?
I love eggs.
Okay, so let me ask you this. This is a layered question. So do you have... Okay, so do you buy them by the carton or in the stack, or what do you do? How do you buy them?
It seems recently, I don't do a lot of the grocery shopping, but my wife buys eggs in bulk all the time. So whether it's kind of probably we'll get 2 or 3 dozen at a time.
Yeah, that's what I do too, because I love eggs too. Okay, so do you cook your own eggs, or does she do it for you?
Yes. My favorite way is to scramble them, a little bit of like olive oil, especially if it's got some green chili tones in it, and then I'll put green chilies or season them up, a little bit of cheese towards the end, and that's my favorite way. And I'm in San Antonio, so they have they call it migas, or different ways that you can put like tortilla chips in there, and any kind of a salsa. But I love eggs. You're talking my love language now.
Okay, so the question I have then, And I love that you shared that. That wasn't my question. But hey, you know what? Just so you know, I cook mine in coconut oil, and I love putting a little cheese in there with some salsa and onions and garlic. It's really good. I love it. I love Mexican food. But here's my question. Okay, so when you take the carton out of the fridge, let's say it's a whole dozen, like, or 18. I buy them in 18. Okay. Like, how do you take the eggs out, and what do you do as there's fewer eggs in there? Do you rearrange the eggs? Do you just let them go like lopsided? Like, what's your thing? What do you do?
You know, once they're set on, I've never had this conversation before, but it's kind of intriguing to me. So they're on the counter, and I'll just take one out at a time, usually crack it open. My wife will, you know, if she's there, she'll just take them out and boil them. But when I'm making scrambled eggs, I'll take one out at a time, crack it. And then sometimes I just put the old shell back in the carton. Sometimes I'll throw it away, but a lot of times I'll put them back because I'm going to make 7 or 8, maybe go through the whole cart. But yeah, that's all I can remember doing with those eggs.
Well, see, you actually almost answered the thing. So that was the question. What do you do with the shells? Because believe it or not, John, I'm just going to tell you, before I started asking people this insane question developed by a psychologist, I never even thought about it. But you would be surprised what people do with the egg shells. So where do you throw them away at?
If I'm making a lot of them for my family, then I'm saving time by putting the shell back into the original spot where I took the egg out of.
Gotcha.
So all the shells would be in that cart. That's what I normally do.
So you never put them down the garbage disposal ever?
Nope. Never.
Okay.
I've never done that. Nope.
Ever composted them?
Nope.
Never gave them to a dog?
You know, I'll give the scrambled eggs, but not the shells. You know, if I'm doing 2 or 3 of them, definitely shells will go in the garbage.
Do you know that shells are like barbed wire fences to snails? And so if you put them outdoors, if you want to protect your plants, snails will they'll get cut if they try to go over them.
Oh, wow. I'll never do that for sure.
I'm telling you, honestly, this is one of the most insane questions, but you would not believe the controversy that has arisen over it. So I want to thank you for humoring me with that question. Okay, so the next question, and this will be the last A-list guest question, unless you want to answer the third one, because I have 3. All right, so the second one is, do you have any magnets on your fridge?
Yes.
Are they?
I do. We've got a couple of them. We've got one that says "I love Vietnam." Some good friends of ours who were on our church staff. They were small group pastors. Tony and Cora Wynn are now in Vietnam as missionaries. So they're there. Remember to pray for them. And then I've got this real big kind of a magnet of our family. It's a picture of us whitewater rafting the first time we went several years ago. So I made that into this giant picture magnet. Those are the 2 big ones. Yeah.
So that's very cool. Okay, so do you want to? Okay, so now. Oh my gosh, the comments on Facebook are funny. The egg files. It depends on your expectations. Nelson checking in.
Nice.
Love our pastor.
Yeah.
Cascarones. I don't know if I said that right. He didn't expect that.
That was an excellent comment.
Now we are getting to know our pastor's egg habits. LOL. See? There you go. See? I've done this. I've interviewed people for 13 years. You learn some tricks, people, after a while, just so you know. All right. I interviewed Dr. Ben Carson twice, and the first one got deleted by accident. Don't ask why or how. It just did. I forgave the person that did it. But I asked him that magnet question about what type of magnets he had on his fridge. Yeah. Can you believe that? He answered it. And when I got the second interview with him, I said, do you remember me? He's like, and I'm like, duh, you've talked to 500 million people by now. I said, I asked you about the magnets on your fridge. He's like, I know you. That's why we do it right there. Plus your super duper fans who want to know something new about you will learn something new about you. Okay, last A-list guest question. Do you remember when you got your driver's license?
Yes, I do. It was the day I turned 16. Right. It was in San Antonio, and passed the driving test, and I remember it was one of the top 10 days of my life, I think.
Ah, good. Thank God. You would not believe the trauma this question's come up with my guests. I've had some. Oh my! Not everybody passes on the first time. Apparently, I've made almost a couple people cry asking that question.
Yeah, my oldest daughter, we went 3 trips. She probably wouldn't want me talking about that, but and yeah, each of those stories on why she didn't pass wasn't great, but it took a while.
Well, for you, I'm glad it's a good experience. People, just so you know, your pastor, he succeeded way back many years ago. It's important. All right. So our A-list guest segment is done. So now that we have a couple more minutes left of the show, does anybody else have any questions for John? Or do you want to add a capstone on the topic of your book, Marathon Faith? Like, you endured this interview. Yes, you did. But you wrote the book, which is awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
So I just want to see if anybody has any questions. Anybody else there have any questions? Stuff you always wanted to know but were never afraid to ask, or you were afraid to ask, but now you feel brave because I asked them all these questions about eggs and stuff. Periscope people, you have any questions? I don't know if anybody's on YouTube. I don't want to crash my computer. Bareface, do you have a question? Nope. He doesn't have a question. Bareface is my husband, in case you didn't know that. He's the one making the screen flip and stuff. All right. I know there's a delay. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and put a capstone on the book and stuff.
All right. Yeah, Marathon Faith, in finding motivation from the great endurance runners of the Bible. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that book or getting a free sample to maybe read before you're thinking about buying the book, you can go to marathonfaith.org. It's marathonfaith.org and read all about it, a little bit of description. There's a video there. And you mentioned earlier about one of your favorite chapters, or the chapter that intrigued you about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It's a small group. And so one of the things that we've offered for free on this website under resources, every chapter has about 6 questions that you can go through with your squad, your small group, your pickleball crew, whatever it is. And you can go through those, read a chapter and then go through those questions together. I think that's the best way to go through this book. And so, yeah, it's a little capstone on it.
All right. Very cool. And it looks like Tony says, Tony Andrew, I don't know who this is, but you might. They say, how hard were the trials of the movie theater? I have no idea what that's about.
He might be talking. For 6 years, our church, we started with 8 people in a living room, and then we went to an elementary school, and then for 7 years, we did church in a movie theater. And this weekend, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary. We've got some land we've built, but those 6 years at a movie theater, it's hard because you got a 5:45 to 6:45. You're showing up in the dark and setting up church with some beat up old boxes, and your cables might not work. You don't even know if the sound's gonna come on, and how are we gonna fill this movie theater? And you got the smell of popcorn, so people are distracted. And you're doing nursery literally. I remember like when the swine flu outbreak was happening, and we're doing nursery on the floor of a movie theater, and it's like, man, the people had to have a lot of faith to stick with us and endure. But those were some hard times, but man, they were some of the best times. We really were dependent on the Lord, and that's how we discovered what discipleship was all about. And we're grateful for what we have now. We'll never forget our humble beginnings. That's for sure.
See, that is so cool. When I was in Orange, California, there was actually a church that met in an old movie theater. So I instantly thought of that because it's cool. That's totally cool. All right. And let's see. Nathan said, your book has made me find more opportunities to build grit in my life. Thank you. And Jill says, when will you start your next book?
I felt called to write this book as called as I did to start our church. And it took me over a year, over 300 hours to write this book. And it was a lot of hard work. I'm not I'm a pastor. I'm not an author or a writer. So it took a lot more work. And I think the name is Marathon Faith. And if any of your viewers have ever run a marathon, the first couple of days after running it, you think, I'm never doing this again. And then maybe after some time goes by, you think, maybe I'll do another one. And, I think after my youngest son, he's 12 years old now, and I want to spend a lot of time with him, making sure that he becomes a man of God and do some discipleship there. But maybe after he graduates, there's a book in me to write a book on small groups to help pastors or help churches, how to scale small groups. So that'll be in the distance, but I have a feeling I'll write my second book will be on that.
Yeah, and I think I know what that book will be about, but I'm not going to say anything because technically our interview is over, and I want people to read about it in the book because your life is it's much more than what he's talked about here, just so you know, people. Mm-hmm. All right, so John, thank you for being my guest. You hold on the line. Everybody else, you out there, wherever you are, I can't see you. I'm pretending to, though. Yeah, you got something in your teeth right there. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you want to follow Bible News Radio, you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, or Periscope, which is where we're at over here, there. And or go over to BibleNewsRadio.com. Join my email list. I actually send out an email every single day. We'll be highlighting this interview in it tomorrow with the video and all that. And we actually offer our people, all of our free stuff and all that stuff is in the email. So if you want to get on our email, go for it. BibleNewsRadio.com. And don't forget, as I always end every show with this saying, because I made it up and I love it, be bold, stand up, and go with God because he loves you. And you know what? Run your race with endurance, man. It's that easy.